Goulash.
Tracy, after the meeting today, you will probably have an overload of things for me to sign, you know, with tax, you know, and all of that stuff. I think a lot of that stuff I have to sign on. But whatever you have, we'll get together the first of the weekend. And we'll see what I have to sign on.
Amy, are you good to go? All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Equalization Committee. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Ms. Mayan?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Christian?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here. I'd ask for approval of the meeting minutes from October 13th, 2022.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from the meeting held on October 13 of 2022.
Support Walker.
Motion by Christian, support by Walker. All in favor, aye.
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 Disapprove, same. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd ask for approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Morse.
Support Christians.
Motion by Morris, support by Christians for approval of the agenda. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same. Do we have any public comment at this time?
Yes.
Ms. Whitman?
Peggy Whitman, I'm from Hart, Michigan. I'd like to open with prayer today. And this is from the Apostle John's first letter to the church. Anyone who loves their brother and sister lives in the light, and there is nothing in them to make them stumble. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his Son, purifies us from all sin. John says God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. As his followers, we are called to walk in the light as he is in the light. Walking in his light means following his word and obeying the leading of the Holy Spirit, living Christ-like. God calls us out of the darkness to walk in his light, and as the light of his love shines on us, may our lives reflect his light to others. Lord, please lead me through this day. Speak your words through my lips at the meetings today, and put your words on the lips of others who will speak today. In the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Whitman. Any other public comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on. Mr. Morris, Zen City update and discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up just to be sure, you know, the will of the board as far as what you're thinking with Zen City. We, you know, watched the presentation for 20 minutes or so, talked briefly about it. I guess I'm not advocating for it strongly, but I am advocating for it to a certain degree, and the only reason is, well, two reasons. It's part of our strategic plan to be more involved with the community. You know, help give them more opportunities, I should say, to have their feedback and transparency and all that. And it's reflected in our strategic plan. Also, I'm just wondering if we could do like a little push, like the whole postcard thing that we discussed, and this, if we could, you know, really try that for a year, something like this, you know, really push for some feedback, public feedback, and see how it goes, how it works, and invest it's $13,000 now, by the way, and that's without the monitoring. Like I said, I'm totally against the monitoring piece. This would be the Engage platform, where it goes out and finds people essentially in Oceana County to fill out surveys and so forth, or at least gives them opportunities, I guess, to do that. So I won't be heartbroken if you guys say no, but I wanted to at least make sure that we took some time after, 20 minutes of talking with her to really have a quick dialogue about what you think.
What kind of, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead.
All right, what kind of avenues do they use to disseminate that information, do you know? Is it Facebook, is it, I'm sure they don't do mailers, cause that gets expensive, but do they don't really get an indication?
Yeah, it's not
of-
mailers, it's all electronic. My understanding is there's some social media pieces, right? And then there's also like newspapers, so Oceana County Press or Oceana Herald Journal online version, they go in there and it will pop up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, but it'll say, hey, fill out this Parks and Rec survey, or hopefully it'll be a little more appealing than that, but hey, tell us about what you think about Oceana County Parks and Rec, parks or whatever. Like right now we have these Kurt Vanderwall advertisements. Some of you guys may have seen those on your feeds or on the side, and it's almost like anything that you go into, I think. It somehow reads, the IP address reads that you're in Oceana County.
Sure.
And that's my understanding. I don't know how far that goes into it, but.
And there were some avenues that, I believe, like if you had surveys or things on your county website that could link back to that and gather that information as well.
Right.
I found it very interesting listening to the presenter on that, but after she got done, I found it more interesting what Miss Matt had to say about where they were going into, and it's almost close to an infringement on some things, and followed up by what you had to say about it, Phil. I am not so sure that I'm real anxious to get involved with this company with any part of this at all. I think if we're going to do a reach out, either social media or postcards or something, that maybe there's a different avenue or a different group to do that with. I just don't. It turned me right off when Martha started talking and you started talking about.
Yeah, the monitoring piece, I agree. That's no way, where they're looking at our feeds and whatever. No way.
If they're doing, if that's what their intent was at the beginning, I guess I'm very, very skeptical about getting involved with it from my personal standpoint.
Anybody else?
Well, I would like to say that her information that she gave us, the program was informational, but I think the key is to how do you alert the residents of this community, of this county? I hate the thought of spending $13,000 to send out postcards. It's like, wow, but yet we have many citizens, and we have a newspaper that goes out, but not everybody buys that as well.
We know that if we wanted to send out a survey, our clerk's office can do labels for us for postcards for everybody who voted in the last election, everybody who voted in the last one. There's several different ways that they can separate, and they can do labels that we can print on the pre-printed postcard. And we can do that ourselves, but it's also, or have somebody do that. It's also, once they go out, it's designed and they go out, they have to be tabulated too. There has to, have somebody the ability to do that. But as far as getting a survey sent out, our clerk's office can do a lot of that stuff. As far as labels, they just print the labels right up and you just put them on the postcards. And it's not going to be for $13,000.
Sure. Anybody else?
I'm good.
Thanks, Ron.
I wondered, Phil, if what the personnel requirements were on our end for something like that. Obviously, somebody has to input that.
That's a good thought.
So I kind of wondered if that increased somebody's load here.
Yeah. Yeah, do you We didn't I didn't ask
Nope,
that.
they didn't mention it either.
Something we might wanna ask, but I'm also wondering, is there anyone else out there, like, other than Zen City, that does something similar, or?
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
For comparison, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's quite a bit of money to spend to, you know, integrate with their platform.
Well, and maybe we just start with step one, and that's the postcards, you know, something like that, and see how that goes, and see what kind of response we get. And if it's poor, then, which I hope it's not.
Should we consider, if we're gonna do that ourselves, go to our planning commission, go to our Parks and Rec board, they've done surveys before, but if we're gonna do an intense, a big survey, maybe each one of those groups has one question or two questions that they wanna present on that. We should, you know, instead of us just doing it ourselves, we should include all of our, you know, groups in the county, all of our different boards that may have, you know, information they wanna get. I know Parks and Rec has done it before, you know, and done some very good things, but, you know, I just wanna make sure that if we're gonna do it, we don't find out, you know, a month after they went out that one of the other groups wished that they had had the opportunity to put something on a survey.
Right, yeah, communication is key with that, right? And collaboration between our committees and commissions. I think I see our role as gathering contact information. I know we have addresses, but unfortunately I see a lot of just throwing them in the garbage, you know, so that's why it was my idea of the postcards. I'm just afraid my idea won't work, that, you know, send all these postcards out, because it just will throw them in the garbage. I do think it's more effective, most effective, if we hand them out ourselves and ask people to, you know, fill out, you know, to sign up for the contact list. And then from there, then our committees and commissions have access through us, through Amy, to, you know, to those different surveys and pieces of information.
And the key to that postcard when it goes out is design. It has to be an attractive and easy, you know, when they take it over the mailbox, they can look at it and understand what it is. That it's not just another solicitation.
Right. Yes.
Well,
Well,
Ron and I age before grade.
No, good.
Ron and I attended this FIT meeting last night that the extension did for the city of Hart, and perhaps the extension might have another avenue that we haven't explored yet. We've already got a substantial investment with our extension, and that may be, this was a very, very in-depth study of the city of Hart, with results and a plan. Maybe we could speak with Mr. Kelly and find out if there may be a way that they may be able to facilitate.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, well,
Is the postcard going to ask people to go to a website to fill out a survey, or is it going to have the survey on it? I don't see how that, I mean,
I envision the postcard to have a QR code, or maybe even, I say in addition to like a URL, okay, an address,
Yep.
internet, and all that does is sends you to a place on our website to sign up for contacts, or for to be on to subscribe to
For
different pieces.
notifications.
Notifications, yeah. So they could sign up. Okay, I want to receive all newsletters. I want to receive all surveys, or I just want to receive newsletters. Or so that's all. That's our piece. So then, when it's time for Parks and Rec to send out a survey, or Planning Commission, whatever, then we have those email addresses all ready to go in a database somewhere, Amy's office, Tracy, wherever, and then we send that out to them. So, you know, and as far as a postcard for specific surveys, we could do that as well on top of that, but mine, like I said, mine was about getting people on an email list. I'm feeling that the interest isn't there to go forward with Zen City, and I'm okay with that, absolutely okay with that. So, thank you for the time.
Okay. All right, moving on. Administrator Biard, consideration of adoption of proposed resolution 2275 to adopt the fiscal year 2023 budget and tax levies.
So first of all, I would like to say thank you to all of you for your patience with me and the changes and the different things. So the budget has been printed for you. We have made a change to the first page of the budget resolution after talking to Ed this morning with regards to equalization. We made a slight change in a little bit of wording so that we have some stuff in there as it relates to Headley. So we got it down to $139,000 for use of fund balance. And that was with the change to the property tax line item and with the additional revenue we have coming in for PILT, which I have applied for, and we are waiting for that first tranche to come in. So we're just waiting for that right now. But as it relates to the budget, that's where we are, and I don't think I had any other changes other than what I noted.
What was the increase in property tax values, the assumed property tax values? Do you remember, just approximate? 300,000?
Yeah, I think we bumped them up that much. It was actually more than that according to the documents that we got from Ed, but you don't want to put that entire amount in there because you don't know that you're going to collect that much. So we do go on the conservative side to make sure that we will end up getting that in.
Thank you. Any questions?
I would just like to say congratulations on getting it down to
Yeah.
139,000.
Well, thank you. Well,
I mean 139,900, whatever.
Yes. I do want to say though that Dr. Sobey's diligence and a lot of the things that he did up to this point helped with that. So, yeah.
I would also like to make a comment about our department heads. And I asked Dr. Sobey a couple years ago how it is that when we start out the year, we're looking at $500,000 or so in the hole, and when we end the year, it's not that, and we don't really haven't taken a lot out of the fund balance. And he said it's because our department heads are doing what they can and saving money where they can, and I appreciate that in this county that they do that.
Mr. Ward.
This money that we have coming in from the federal government, the PILT money, you know, the PILT subsidy, really helped with the budget, and it really helped with setting our tax levies and everything. But it was more evident to me during the budget process this year than it has ever been sitting on the board that county government, like every other government, can't do everything for everybody, especially when it comes to finances. And we have a lot of organizations that provide a very, very good service that are not under the offices of Oceana County government. But we still have hundreds of thousands of dollars that we work with them, and we have them provide a service for us. All of this money that has come in the last few years from the state and the federal government, be it because of the pandemic or be it because of the PILT or whatever, it's not going to be there forever. And we need to put all of the people, and I know that all of them are, if I can use the word sacred cow, and don't take that, you know, slander this. We're going to have to take a look at, and I can just use a couple examples. Michigan State University. They're a standalone university. They provide a very valuable service. Can we, as Oceana County taxpayers, afford $150,000 or neighbor to $150,000 to participate with them every year? Because you know, when we do that, we have less employees. And we have less services that our equalization, or the equalization contract, that's not good, but our sheriff's department, you know, it takes money from every one of our departments, our sheriff's department, our register of deeds, it takes money from everybody else if we're doing that. You know, the Soil Conservation District is a very, very valuable district. But we also put money into the Soil Conservation District, and that is a federal government agency. There is going to be a time that it's going to happen that all of this money is not going to be coming in, and we're not going to be able to do this anymore. And those agencies need to, that get money from us now, are going to have to look at a long-range plan that money may not be there in the future. Because we have to take care of what we are required constitutionally and legally first within our own government before we send money out to other places. Not a very popular thing to say, but ladies and gentlemen, and I really firmly believe it's coming. And it's gonna hit us like a ton of bricks.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
Well, if I
Yes,
may,
Mr.
and
Moore.
to your point, what is it, $280,000 that goes to community mental health right now that's not on the budget? I mean, it is, but it's from ARPA money. What are some of the other ones out
Health
there?
Department.
Health Department, 130, somewhere in that ballpark. OCEA money, $45,000, you know, yeah, if it wasn't for that, we'd be in the $600,000 in the red range, and
There's some things that we are mandated to do.
Right.
You know, with community mental health and the health department.
Yep.
Don't like them. And the previous board actually cut community mental health. Martha, were you on the board then? There was we got served a notice immediately that we mandatory had to make that contribution. We had no choice. And they were right. But we just need to take a serious look. In the future, we need to take a serious look.
I do have,
Go ahead.
if I may. The extra prosecuting attorney is on here, the assistant prosecuting attorney?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I saw. I saw 2 assistant prosecuting attorneys on the one.
Employee breakdown.
Right.
Along with the ARPA funds to cover that.
Yeah, and Mr. Moore said it was for 3 years only.
Right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember now. Thanks.
Any other comments? All right, moving on. Mr. Ed DeVries, consideration of adoption of a proposal resolution 2276, approval of the 2022 apportionment report of millage rates, and presented by the Equalization Director.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Dan DeVries.
I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay. I get DeVries a lot. I did want to mention one thing from your first conversation, just something for you to think about. There's 3 times a year where we are statutorily mailing to all residents in the county the assessment notice and the tax bill, summer bill, and the winter bill. So February, June, and November, and it would only cost, I believe, a couple of pennies additional to have a 2-page insert printed and included, folded, stuffed, and mailed, piggybacking on the postage that's already being paid to send out those notices.
Great.
So it might be a way to get those information out, you know, whether it has the QR code or an actual survey that can be mailed back in, however you want to do it. Just keep that in mind as an option. I know in Kalamazoo County, the county treasurer actually sends an insert for all of the local units to send out with their tax bills in December about dog licensing fees and other things. So I've seen it done elsewhere. And if it's something you're interested in, just let me know, because I actually do a lot of the coordination with the assessors. I gather their data and send it in a lump. Most people use KCI which is a mailing service out of Grand Rapids, and I can get a quote for that extra insert for what they'll be charging. Probably too late for the winter bill, because they need everything by, I think, November. They want it between the 10th and the 16th. But going forward, I can find out what they would charge to print those for you, and then fold and stuff them and include them in all of the real property notices, which you don't want to go into personal property owners, because you just want it to go to your property owners. So just keep that in mind. Second thing, I'm going to be sending some information to Tracy that I'm getting from the state. The state is doing a new flyover for our aerial imagery in the spring, and we are going to be able to get 12-inch, which is okay. I mean, you can see it. I don't know if you've looked at our GIS. 12-inch imagery, and you can see things, but the closer you zoom in, the blurrier it gets. There's going to be an option to do a buy-up to a 6-inch or a 3-inch. In the 3-inch, you can actually see drains and street lights, I mean, at that level. So I'm going to have some prices for that. I'm kind of copying off from a letter that Manistee County sent out to their local units, the township treasurers and managers, seeing to get the buy-in if the local units would share. So I'm going to be working with Tracy on that and seeing what we might be able to put together to maybe get a little better imagery layer available for Oceana County that'll go on our GIS website next year. So they fly it in April, early April, before the leaves start to come out and when the ground is clear, and then we would have that data sometime mid next summer. So keep an eye out for that, and if you get questions from your supervisors when you visit the townships, bring that up that they will be seeing something from us to see if we can get collaboration and maybe get some better imagery countywide. It not only helps like the drain department, sheriff's office, I think would benefit from a better image to be able to zoom in and see things. But as far as the assessing goes, it allows us to identify when we're doing our studies, which we're just finishing up to send out, for identifying what land is tillable, what's wooded, what's swampy, what's lowland, so that we're properly doing our appraisals when we put our studies together. So there's a lot of different benefits to that higher resolution imagery. And it's really come down in price. It used to be for 6 or 3-inch you'd spend hundreds of thousands, but it's much less than that now because the technology increases. Yeah.
Will that square up all the property lines then? I know we've
No.
talked about that, so that's still an arbitrary thing we'll have to do.
That is something that still costs several $100,000, because what you have to do is called orthorectification. And what it does is it takes our parcel layer, and in the flight you actually are paying for control points, which are the corner sections and the quarter sections, the section corners, and then your image files then have those coordinates are put together so they snap together in the right place. But it's very costly. So our GIS isn't used for legal purposes. So those lines, and as you've seen, sometimes they run right through a building. I mean, it needs to go over 30, 40 feet to get to that center of the road. But again, it's something you could certainly do if you chose to, but it is still very, it's less than it used to be, but it's still very costly.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Ed, when you talk about getting into this imaging and going down, right into, you can see the blades of grass, has anybody ever challenged that for privacy issues, the flyover? Have you ever heard of anybody bringing up a privacy issue with that being done?
Well, they're flying at a height of, I think, either 5,000 or 10,000 feet, but with that 3-inch imagery, you can see the cars parked in the front driveway. You can see if there's swing sets. If there's people standing there, you can see them. You can't identify the people with that level of imagery. When in Van Buren we flew pictometry, which actually takes a top shot, but then they take all of each shot and they have side cameras. And so with the pictometry, it's called oblique photography. You can actually look at an angle and go right around a house, and that way you can see the decks, you can see if the overhangs, you can actually measure height of a building with that. It's a great tool. Obviously, it's something that's more expensive. You're paying for 5 images, one from the top and then one from each angle. But it is a really great tool. I've never seen it challenged. The only parcels that are typically blocked out of the imagery are for defense, national, like the nuclear plants and other sensitive areas. Those are just blocked out regardless of the level of that resolution. But
just a passive concern that I have.
yeah, the one thing is that, and most people, most assessors know this, and we do get some requests from police that want, I mean, you can find anybody on the internet, but in our BSA software, you can check a box so that it does not show their information when it gets uploaded to the online site that displays the property information. So that's just something that they can request, and they check that box, and so when those nightly uploads, or how often they're uploaded to the BSNA online website, their information just won't be displayed. They may still see it in the imagery file, but if they click on it where it would normally come up with the personal data, it just says no information available. So, and we try to honor that when we get those requests.
Thank you.
As far as our apportionment report, this is just our statutory meeting that we have to hold, and what I provided you are all of the millage rates for the county, local units, villages, the authorities, the Pentwater DDA, the library districts, school districts, community college, and the ISDs. Those are all the taxing jurisdictions that levy a millage in Oceana County. And what I do is when they submit the 4029 tax rate request, just like you do, I look them over, especially the ones that I don't prepare. I do prepare the majority of them, so they're usually right. And so they just basically sign off on it after they've done their meetings and approve it. But we check those to make sure that they're not levying more than they're allowed to, and that's what we're required to do. And so this report, in order for them to collect their taxes, you need to authorize the apportionment report for that collection. And this does cover the summer and winter millage rates. The annual meeting is in October, but that was set up for October back before they had a summer collection. But it just does still cover both collection sessions.
What happens with the village if they have their budget come due in April and they change their millage rate?
Well, they have until September 30th to submit their tax rate request. So just like with the county, we prepare the language so when you do your budget resolution, you're basically saying that you intend to levy the maximum. When it comes time to actually set those millages for next year, if things change, you look at your budget, you may not levy as much, and you've collected less on a couple of them in the past. You can always do that. The language that we added was that you can collect up to those maximums that were set this year, but we added as reduced by Headley millage reduction fraction if required, because we don't know if we're going to have a reduction until next April. And so you're doing your budget for next year now before you know that. You're covered now, so you don't have to have a separate truth and taxation hearing. And I worked with Dr. Sobey and Tracy on that to make sure that you didn't have to spend the money to hold that extra hearing. And as far as for next year, we are going to get the official notice from the STC this month, but our inflation rate will be 5%, our CPI. So it's the first time we've had a 5% increase in our taxable values, and that'll be for all properties that don't have new construction or don't uncap because of a transfer of ownership. I usually, when I am asked to estimate, I usually figure somewhere, if the CPI is going to be 5%, that means your taxable value is probably going to go up between 5.5% and 6.5% because of new construction and the uncappings. But keep in mind that the uncappings are that trigger that if you have a lot of properties that transfer, that increase in taxable value due to the transfers of ownership, those are the increases that do trigger or result in your millage reduction fraction. Because ultimately you're not allowed to collect more revenue next year than this year other than the CPI. So 5%. The only exception to that is for new construction. You're allowed to collect that additional taxable value. Any questions?
Anyone else?
You just explained very, very well
Thank
why
you.
we
Yeah.
need to have an assessor with your ability to keep
Well,
that.
it's taken me 26 years to
percentage.
figure it out myself, so
26.
it's very confusing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving on, Mr. Administrator Biard, consideration of snowplow bids for county properties, 2022-17.
So we sent out requests for bids for the snow plowing. We received 2 responses back. The one was for locations 1 and 2, and then the other one was for 3 and 4. So we're asking that you approve those today.
Okay. And that was in your packet too. Right. And again, Ms. Biard, consideration of adoption of a proposed resolution 2277 to adopt the health insurance hard cap and health insurance.
So Stacy and I have been working diligently on the health insurance piece and meeting with different brokers to see what ideas they may have to one, save the county money, and to provide better insurance to the county employees. The proposal that is here in your packet today, we are asking that 1, we change brokers to Brown and Brown. 2, that the county move from fully insured to self-funded, which allows for an immediate savings to the plan. We're looking at roughly $50,000 to $120,000 savings, and this will be monitored monthly and it'll be reported on quarterly. So we'll have a good handle on how that's going throughout the process. This would allow for 3 different plans for the employees. The HSA plan they have now, a $1,000, $2,000 deductible, and then a $250, $500, and those are all based off the hard cap. And then the dental, vision, and life would remain the same, although there would be additional life coverage that would be offered to the employees if they choose to enter into that, but they would be paying for that themselves. Any questions?
And I'm aware of something that maybe you want to discuss, that you did have a meeting with the Police Officers Association of Michigan at the turn order of police.
We did, and they agreed. They agreed to the
Okay.
plans that were offered.
So there'll be a letter of
Understanding.
letter of understanding coming, from them, when it's implemented.
Yep.
So this is the same company that we have now,
It is.
with just different
No, we
options.
have BCN.
Okay.
BCN, it's the same insurance, it's a different broker.
Okay, that's where I
broker
was.
change, isn't it?
So, the broker that you have now, along with 2 others, were, they had approached us about, giving us some quotes and different things. So, basically, in each of those meetings, I said to them, my goal here is to save the county money and also provide better plans for the county employees. That's what I want to see.
So, To describe it a little better, if we have a employee who has 4 members of his or her family that are on our insurance, what will it mean for them, for their copay and their coverage when we go forward with this?
It depends on which plan they select.
Yeah.
There still is the 3,000, 6,000, with the HSA. So you have some that, have an HSA plan that they still wanna carry on with that, they can do that. There's a 1,000, 2,000 deductible plan, or there's a 250, 500 deductible plan.
If they stay with similar to what they have now, is there a savings for them?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yes.
In the area of?
That plan is free to them.
No. So if they're paying, if the employee is paying a copay now, stays with the same type of deductible?
Yeah.
The same type of coverage?
Yeah.
Will their copay go down?
No, their copay remains the same. Their deductibles remain the same. There is no charge for that plan at all.
Is there?
Because we're going off the hard cap.
Is there, are they paying a charge for it now?
Some of them are not, from what I understand. But they do have the option to buy up to the other plans, and the $250, $500 deductible for a full family, if they choose that, is $16.50 a pay.
And under.
So they have the opportunity to go up to a better plan.
And under the existing, is there an opportunity to go up to a better plan?
There is, but I do believe that the full family amount on that is over $200 a month.
That's the type of numbers that I'm looking for.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that,
Yeah.
you know, that it's not only, it's nice that it's good for us as an employer,
Yeah.
but it's more important that it's good for the employees.
Yeah.
Could we go off so if we go off the hard cap, let's say this ends up costing more down the road 3 years from now, it's
Yeah.
actually gonna be more than when we were on the hard cap, can we go back on the hard cap if need be?
This is still on the hard cap.
Or so maybe it's the soft cap, maybe I'm going the other way.
Or you're talking about the self-insured piece?
Yeah, this is, I'm not exactly sure what I'm talking about.
Okay, so right now you're fully funded. So when an employee chooses a plan, you are paying the full amount for that plan for that employee, whether they use it or not. So now if you go self-funded and you have all these employees that are on these plans and you have like several of them that aren't using it at all, you're not paying anything for them. You're only paying for them if they use it. So that's where your savings come from.
Yep.
But if you find later on down the road that this isn't working out for us, there are options to change back. We can make changes to it
Okay.
again.
If we go to this plan, is there a minimum length of time that we have to stay with it?
No.
Not 2 years or something?
No. And I will tell you that there is a savings with the new broker of roughly $12,000 a year for at least the next 2 years, because they provided a flat rate and they've locked that in for 2 years.
Is this a bigger broker house that's just being more competitive, or are there others moving to this broker because of their premiums?
Not necessarily. I know several counties that use them already. They've been in business for quite a long time, so.
Just changing carriers?
Yeah.
Paul, and I'm aware of some of these things because of conversations with the administrator. One of the reps for one of the unions is familiar with this company and with the rep, and was very favorable when he found out that who actually would be handling the account. He's had contact with the rep on occasions and spoke very highly of the person.
Good. Yes,
I
sir.
guess I'm just gonna ask one more question.
Go ahead.
Why were we paying now for people that we weren't really covering? Why would we do that?
Well, if you recall, during my interview with you, I believe the question came from Tim. He said, he asked me about self-funded health insurance and what I knew about it. Some people don't wanna go down that road yet, or it might not be a good time for you to go down that road yet. So, that may be the reason, I don't know for sure, but, we're bringing it to you now, and
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. I'm just trying to think, okay, why?
well, sometimes there might be situations where you have several people on your plan that are hitting that max, and if they're hitting that max, you don't wanna be self-funded at that point, cause you're paying for all that.
Okay.
It's more of a user fee, Phil.
Yeah.
The self-funded is more of a user fee. You pay based on your
Right.
exposure.
I remember Sobe had some bar graph, a couple of years last year, and was talking about this very thing, but it's based on the age of our employees then, right? If we had an older average age of our employees, then the plan we're on right now would be better for us. Is that right?
It's not necessarily age, it's more about usage. About how much you're using the insurance, how much, those surgeries and those types of things.
Oh, I see, yeah.
That's
Okay.
more what
Yeah.
you're looking at.
If you have an ongoing catastrophic issue with one or two employees, self-funding does not work well.
I see, okay. That makes sense. It's
Is
clicking.
that a correct statement, Tracy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go
Self-funding,
ahead.
I'm very confused about it. I thought self-funding was where the county would pick up partial cost, would put aside money so as to pay less in insurance. Is that a totally different thing? I mean, like, Gerber Products is providing, Nestle is going to provide their insurance now, as opposed to a insurance company providing their insurance. And I thought that we as a board were looking to gradually transition, if possible, look into it, always keep that in mind, that maybe we could get by with only purchasing catastrophic insurance for the employees. Am I right? Okay. But now you're talking self-funding, the way you're talking it, some people may not be using it. Well, are they not using it because they have a spouse who has better insurance, or are they not using it because they
Aren't getting sick.
have
Right.
found their own?
No, it's because they're not getting sick. They don't go to a lot of them don't go to the doctor, or they don't have to, they might go and get their preventatives done, but they don't have anything else, they don't need
Okay.
surgeries, they don't need prescriptions, they don't need anything else. So because they're not utilizing those types of things, we're not paying for them.
Well, we always had to before.
Well, with
I mean, it was-
self-funded, you're actually you're only buying a plan, you're paying for the plan for the person if they're utilizing the services.
Okay. And the other companies did not allow that prior to this?
Well, they allow.
They
just didn't, it wasn't something that was offered. They didn't offer that.
So if you have 182 employees and 10 of them don't ever use it,
Yep.
you're still paying for 182 employees with some companies.
If you're fully insured, you are paying for those people, yes. With self-funded, you are not. That's where your savings come in.
Martha, I have to be very careful on how I word this. We had some huge exposures in the past. And that affected what we were paying in our premiums. And
Yeah.
when you get into those discussions, they're very, very, you have
It's
to
the
be very
same way with the
selective.
health department. They've got a couple of huge exposures that are just ongoing. So, my question is, my question is that these people who are not using it are, you said, I believe, just now said that they do not pay anything, nothing is withdrawn from their check, their pay stubs?
If they are on the $250-$500 deductible plan, they are paying whatever is above the hard cap for if it's a single, two-person, or full family. If they are on one of the other two plans, they are not paying.
Thank you.
Yep.
A real eye-opener. Thank you. And I think on behalf of the board and all of our county employees, we should say thank you to you, Tracy, and to Stacy for sitting in and checking it out with various vendors and getting them down with their pencil to be competitive.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
And that's not included in our current budget, right?
That is not included in your current budget because we haven't had open enrollment yet. So that is going to reduce the cost of some of those line items in there too, so.
All right, good job. Anyone else? Continuing on, Mr. Biard, consideration of approval of the MSU Extension Memorandum of Agreement for fiscal year 2023, Resolution 2022-19.
So, Mr. Kelly just walked in. Do you want to talk about this? Well, basically, the memorandum of agreement was provided.
Sure,
Mr.
I can
Kelly?
share.
Yeah.
It's a standard memorandum. It hasn't really changed in the format for certainly within my time for the last decade or so, based on an assessment, which I think we've had. I forget which group I've stood in front of and talked about the assessment formulas and based on population, and of course the numbers on the MOA reflect the conversation we had regarding the budget discussion from a few weeks ago. So I just want to be available for questions if you might have any.
Well, that was perfect timing.
It was very good, wasn't it?
Almost like
Thank you, James.
Any
You were
other
watching
discussion?
YouTube, weren't you?
Yeah. All right, moving on, consideration of approval of the ARPA funds appropriations 2022-20.
Okay, let me get to it. So I had sent out the, yesterday, sent out the, items that were being requested. Those all went through the ARPA committee. And I will say that the ARPA committee has concluded. Wouldn't you say, Craig?
Yes.
So, they are, proposing, hold on a second, let me get to my list. $50,000 for Shelby Township for the housing development project. Pentwater, Hart Trail, and Safe Route to Schools, $50,000 total. Village of, Hesperia for a pavilion in their park, $25,000. Conservation District for the, that is not the purchase of a nature preserve, but rather development of a nature preserve. At Stony Creek in the amount of $50,000. Levitt Township, upgrades to Campbell Park, and the boat launch in the amount of $38,560. Elbridge Township Park upgrade, $20,000, and Shelby Township for the purpose of a development of a 35-acre park in the amount of $50,000.
Any questions or comments?
One question. On the Shelby Township housing project, it talks about the Peterson Farms, and their employee problem, and it talks about Shelby Township, and the lack of housing, and I just couldn't help but notice the statement on there, and I'm wondering if it was discussed, excuse me, at the ARPA committee meeting, I couldn't help but notice a statement that, it's where it said this was for Shelby Township residents. What if a Greenwood Township resident wanted to move into that development, or a Pentwater Township resident wanted to move into that development? You know, I'm certainly hope it's not exclusive.
My understanding, and we did have conversations about that, it's not exclusive. One of the other things that we wanted to check with too, part of that development is a 501c. So, and that property is currently, they're trying to annex into the village of Shelby. So one of the things was, where does this fund actually go? Does it go to the township itself? Does it go to the village of Shelby itself? And we're kind of waiting to hear the final on that.
And having done it before, I believe this board is who makes a decision to annex that into the village of Shelby.
It could be.
Well, that's who did the annexation for Double J Ranch into the village of Rothbury.
Okay.
You know, we made that recommendation. But if that discussion was held at the committee,
Yep.
I'm very satisfied with that, you know.
Yeah, and one of the
I
other-
wasn't the only one that picked up on that concern.
Yeah, and Administrator Biard sent out, I think, a little while ago, you know, the potential tax revenue from that project as well. And I believe to the 501c there was over a $2 million donation to pursue that. So it all helps the county.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else?
And it was, am I right, it was 80 homes with a median of 110,000 per home?
Something like that, yeah. I don't remember 70 or 80. I know that there was also 3 apartment buildings, I think, in the preliminary plan, and then the individual lots. So, yeah.
So major development.
Major development.
800 square feet?
They did reduce the square footage allowances.
I saw they
Yeah.
dropped the square footage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was this the one where they were going to take the ARPA funds and use them for infrastructure to extend out from what is probably at the village line now, the sewer and water?
I think it's a combination of, you know, whatever fees are necessary, legal fees. I don't know if it would go directly into the extension of the lines or not, but there was a lot of preliminary stuff that they were still working on, and this is just to kind of help encourage that.
Okay.
I like the fact that there's some friends from the east that are getting some ARPA dollars too. You know, a lot of times they feel like they get the short end of the stick, and maybe rightfully so. And you know, Levitt Township, Hesperia, and Elbridge, I'm glad, you know, that they're getting some funds. That's good.
Well, I want to commend the volunteer committee for, you know, a lot of time, and I'm sure Mr. Kelly can. It's a little work on top of it,
Yeah.
and some varying opinions on, you know, what to use the money for. We tried to service as many of the requests that we could, and I think we did a pretty fair and balanced job doing that. So my hat's off to the committee for volunteering their time for that.
So my final question, so the ad hoc piece is over then for the ARPA committee?
Yeah.
Do you want us to throw you a party, or? No, and then is,
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
And then have letters gone out to, I mean, after we decide, you know, today, have letters gone out to those that did not receive?
They will,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
We initially sent out letters
Right.
to the ones that have already received funds, ones that had not, if we were still considering them, and then the ones that they weren't considering at all. And then, once the board meeting is done, then we can send out, those final letters.
Great, thanks.
Yep. Yes.
I guess a comment and then a question. Being that we just got this information yesterday, I did not have time to digest it yesterday. I personally don't feel comfortable voting on these requests today, because I'd like a little more time to digest them and study them thoroughly. That's just me on one voice, but and then the question would be, if these requests were all approved, is that the last of the ARPA money? Is it gone then?
We,
No.
the committee, we decided that we wanted to take the remaining $500,000 and leave that.
Okay, so
in
after
place.
these, if these were approved, there's still
A half
$500,000
yeah.
left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, but, with that, we still have bids coming in, are supposed to be in this week for the chiller system. You know, and
So
then,
that
and then,
number's
and then.
in there too.
And then, and I am gonna do what I talked about at the last
Yep.
meeting, have somebody look at that for,
Mhm.
look at those
Okay.
3 bids for us.
And we've had an amount in there, kind of a rough estimation of quotes, but we're still waiting for additional
Sure.
information on that, but, so, yes.
I wonder if we could get a monthly statement maybe for the next few months of showing what has been allocated, what has been committed to these various government agencies and so forth, and then what the balance is left of our 2-year ARPA procurement.
I have a form that Dr. Sobey was working on prior to me arriving, and I've been updating that as we go, so I can give you a copy of that anytime.
And Ron, it's basically a spreadsheet that kind of shows where everything went.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we are still working on the leak in the basement.
In the basement.
Right.
Piece. We have a quote, but there was some final things that Brian was working on with regards to if that was gonna cause any issues with electrical on the floor downstairs, but came in quite reasonably. I was shocked.
The people, you know, with Ayers Waterproofing, I believe, that had a very good quote that probably gonna have to come back and be approved by
Yep,
this board.
exactly.
But the reason that we haven't moved forward with it is because they asked Brian to find out where all of the electrical and all of the service lines are for everything underground before they start cutting, and before they start looking. And Brian's been all over this. From Tracy, from what I see, Brian has done a great job on getting
yeah.
getting these things
Yeah.
together, pulling
Yeah.
these things together. He's a valuable person for us.
And he said he's just waiting for all this to come to fruition because he thinks that it's all gonna happen all at once.
That's how it
Hopefully,
goes.
Yeah.
hopefully the chiller system can be done during the winter, and we can isolate that from our heating system.
That'd be nice.
And they can go in and take that out.
Great. Okay, any other
Well,
comments, questions? Yes,
Going
Mr.
back to Tim's question, is there a need to ponder this further, or?
Oh, I guess that's up, to the commissioners themselves. I mean, the committee actually went through these things pretty well.
Yep.
Some we could not fund, they got set aside, and some that we felt that, and I think that's kind of with some of the township parks is, one of the reasons that we wanted to try to help those other communities like to the east, and not all the requests got funded to the level they asked for, but again, kind of trying to help with the projects and with I don't want to say with a limited budget, and try to do as many as you can properly. That was the hard work for the committee itself, was to select those and then figure out amounts for those and move forward. And we had representation from, all around, so it worked out really good. Mr. Kelly's experience, a couple people from the Pentwater area as well, so.
I guess my big concern is not that I see any glaring issues here, just I've taken about 15 minutes to review it, and I'm not interested in rubber. I trust the subcommittee. They're committed with the job and they've done it well. I just don't like to rubber stamp a recommendation. So personally, I'd like to put it off till our next meeting. But
What is the adverse thing, Mr. Hardy, about putting it off?
Yeah,
Is
that's
there any downside to it?
No.
Time sensitive, any of these time sensitive?
No, I mean, a lot of these requests came in, obviously in April and May, so I think another couple of weeks is gonna make any difference if you want more time to review.
I like Mr. Morris's term, if it's not time sensitive, and we have a commissioner that wants to look at it,
Sure.
I think,
I don't have an issue with that.
I'm in favor of giving them the opportunity to look at it.
Okay.
Agreed. Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Getting to work out, Tracy. Consideration
I know, that's what I said.
reappointment of Mr. Alvin Doctor to the Department of Health and Human Services for a 3-year term, 2022-21.
So the next, or this one is just a reappointment of Mr. Doctor to the Department of Health and Human Services for a 3-year term.
Yes, we discussed that on Monday morning a little bit. The time that I've spent with Mr. Doctor, he is very conscientious. He looks at the budget well. He asks good questions. He's got experience moving forward. That board does function very well. And I'm in favor of reappointment of Mr. Alvin Doctor.
The 2 years that I spent on the county commission with Mr. Doctor, he was a very valuable member to the county commission with his background working, you know, in the postal service as a, you know, a higher up in the postal service. He knows government.
Super. Any other questions, comments? All right, moving on again, Ms. Biard. Consideration to reappoint Mr. Gail Forner to the Oceana County Land Bank Authority Board for a 3-year term as recommended by the county treasurer, number 2022-22.
And if I may say, being on that board, Mr. Forner is a stabilizing force on that board. He is part of the foundation that makes it work.
I agree. Gail is top quality.
First class. We're fortunate to have somebody like that on that board.
Any other comments or questions? All right, moving on again. Ms. Biard. Consideration of approval of the contract, Michigan Department of Transportation and the Oceana County Board of Commissioners for the airport lighting project number 2022-24.
So this is a contract that was provided to me through Prina Newhoff, and as it relates to the grant project that they have with the county airport and the lighting project up there.
Yes.
Couple questions. So it becomes an MDOT project as well that they're engineering, so forth. It's about a $15,000 or $16,000 contract, if I recall. Tremendous amount of paperwork, which makes it a truly government project. As we all, I thought I'm not going to memorize this. I don't know as if I saw a site plan to indicate a change of where they're adding these lights. Was it at the terminal building? Is there an impact at all, I guess, on the runway, which I'm not here to judge the engineering, but there's just all this paperwork in the packet, but not to say, well, where are you going to put the lights, and is there any kind of a cut sheet on the lights itself to say what does this look like, and does it impact the lighting on the runway? I'm sure they're considering all this, but it didn't give me the meat and potatoes I would have liked to have seen of what's this all about.
Okay, I'm not really into this yet because it was like thrown at me and said we need to get this contract through so we can get the grant monies so that we can get the project completed. So I will get those questions answered for you, get that information from Prina Newhoff, and I'll tell you, I thank God for them because there's a system that we have to put the invoices through that I'm not truly familiar with, and it's not user friendly, and so they work through it step by step with us. So they've been great. I don't know what I'd do without them.
Yep.
In order for an engineering firm to do any work at airports at all, they have to be approved by the Michigan Department of Transportation. Several years ago, we released it for bids and requested bids from engineering firms. We had Prina Newhoff apply because they're the major one in this area, and we had a company out of Illinois applied, an engineering company, and we had one from the southeast corner of Michigan who wanted to get into airports who wasn't approved yet. and they were working on their approval. But, so, when you talk about the engineering, the lighting and all that, that stuff is pretty tight. You know, and that's why they have it, they don't let just any engineering firm bid for the infrastructure at airports. And the paperwork, from what I understand, is very, very complicated, and it's very.
I found it to be complicated.
Yeah, I was reading.
But just to give you a background,
But,
you know, for somebody to do this, you can't just hire an engineering firm, anybody you
Right.
want to do this work at
Absolutely.
airports.
No, and I've dealt with Prine and Newhoff for years, and they've been out in the Grand Rapids, Western Michigan area for years, so they're extremely well established. And I'm not here to really challenge that portion of I'm sure they've got it engineered right. For $16,000, I don't think they're gonna be near the runways, because you're dealing with conduits and other more of an expensive type light. I don't know, but again, because we didn't see it, it's like, wow, is this a big light, a small light? Is that we're just trying to light up a general area? I didn't get that with all the paperwork that came through. And it was a little disappointing.
If we finish before 11:30, would you like a call to go out to the manager out there to ask where that lighting is intended to
There
be?
you go. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, Kurt,
You
Yeah,
know,
Kurt.
you know, we could see if we could get a hold of him.
I'm almost gonna guarantee that the FAA is involved with all this.
Oh, absolutely.
Discussions
Yeah,
and
yeah.
placement, so.
And it's possible too that because of security reasons, they did not put that out on too much
Yeah.
document work. For security reasons, that we didn't have 20 years ago, but we do have now.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What else? All right, moving on. Ms. Biard, administrative review of selected claims for payment.
Claims have been provided. Are there any questions?
All right, moving on.
I have
Oh,
one
go
quick
ahead.
question, and you probably, with the addition of Shelby Venona to the MFR fees, I see those on there, is that, they're probably just kinda getting started into that, so I'm guessing we don't have enough data to see if we're kinda on track budget wise, so that's pretty fresh to know
Yep.
what that looks like. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mr. Beggs, I think you have a very valid point there, that if quarterly or after the first quarter or after the second quarter, we find out we're going way over on that, we may have to take a look, and this has been discussed before, at priority threes and our reimbursement for priority threes. May have to. And as everybody knows, that's a non-life threatening call.
Anyone else? All right, moving on. Is there any public comment at this time?
Yes.
Ms. Whitman?
So I have numerous comments on what was covered at today's meeting, so I'm working from the agenda that I had. And my first one had to do with the budget. As a citizen, I tried to become more involved and try to understanding the budgeting process. So Gail Merton and I came into the administrator's office earlier in the week to take a look at the budget. And we were provided with a copy that's there on site, but we were not able to take it out. We were not able to get our own copy to take out with us. We had to just sit in the office and review it in the office and make notes, or to whatever extent we could, try to wrestle with all that information. Stacy was able to answer a couple of questions for us, but we had not an opportunity to go into depth. And then when we came back and printed off the packet information that's available online, the information in the packet is very, very different than what was available in the report format in the administrator's office. So what was available to us as citizens online was not helpful as far as developing our understanding. So now I came today to listen as a citizen and listen to conversation, but still ended up with really not an ability to further my knowledge. So my question is there something that can change in this process to make it so that citizens can have an opportunity to ask some more questions? We had talked with Stacy a little bit about asking, could the administrator's office provide a training session, you know, an hour, 1 hour, we'll put a cap on it, and just have it so that citizens can come in and ask questions and have questions answered, go in a back and forth kind of a manner. And my other thought was, I don't know, maybe it's something that I should be taking up with my own district representative, like Mr. Hardy. Maybe commissioners could offer times when citizens from their district could come in and just have a back and forth question and answer kind of a format. So one thing that stuck out was that I saw, if I understood it correctly, that in next year's budget, the 2023 budget, that the commissioners are all going to be considered full-time employees from the county standpoint. So that will remain a question that I have. I know you're not going to answer me now, so that is a question that I will look for some type of a response to in the future. That would change dramatically in my mind what the meaning of your roles are. Alright, second was on Zen City. I want to thank you as a group for not going down this road with that particular organization. I want to thank Mrs. Mayette for being so well prepared last time it was discussed to bring up numerous points of great concern, and I particularly thank you, Martha, for bringing up the aspect of our Christianity. Most of us in this county are Christians and share that same concern, so thank you for that. The third is on health insurance. You had a discussion of self-funding. You know, my work in my career life was in employee benefits for a long time, so I have probably more of an in-depth understanding of self-funding than most, but please go down that road cautiously. Please go down that road cautiously. For a broker to just say you're going to save money this time, there's a lot of liability concerned. Look at the long-term perspectives. Try to understand more what that's going to impact on a longer-term basis. The next item, Michigan State University. Wow, I would really caution this board from getting into a more depth relationship with Michigan State when that is where there's a university professor who's started a corporation by the name of Konek Corporation, which I'm sure you've heard of, which is now being brought to court relative to being involved in our electoral process and our election system and creating fraudulent activity in the state of Michigan and across the United States. We don't need to be involved with that kind of an organization at all. My fifth point, detail on the ARPA distributions. If that wasn't given to the board members until yesterday, of course me as a citizen didn't have any information available online, so I'm asking for that to be provided to me after this session at some point in the future, that I get that same information that the board got. And my last point is on Al Doctor. I went to the medical care facility board meeting, so I have a question. This agenda for today says that he's being on the DHHS board again. Now he sits on the DHHS board and the medical care facility board. So is he being appointed also to the medical care facility board as well? You did not speak to that today. I also am concerned about him sitting on the board. He just nods his head, like the three of them do. They just nod their heads with all the things that are going on at both those organizations. And I'm concerned about that. They still have a mask mandate in place at the medical care facility. I still cannot go see my mother without them insisting that I put a mask on. That's against my constitutional rights. 2.5 years later, come on. Even the resident in the Oval Office has said there's no more COVID emergency. How does then an organization underneath the Oval Office have the ability to do something that's in opposition to what the Oval Office says? And why do we just continue to go along with this and think this is normal? Because it's not. Those people are in charge of individuals, residents who cannot fight for themselves in their own rights. Please take pity. Take pity on those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public
Could I
comment?
speak as a commission person? It's not public comment. Could I speak as, I guess, department head?
Sure.
Because I have good news. So, Gary McKean, Oceana County Parks. We just completed our first ARPA funding that we got. We put the bids out in March. We received a bid. We were able to get the funding, I think it was in July. The work has been done at Black Lake, so this is the electrical improvement to the campground. Originally, we thought it was going to be $15,000. It came in at $11,400.
Wow.
So that money will go back into the ARPA fund, I would imagine. So that's a good thing. And secondly, just so you remember that the Black Lake campground day use area will benefit Leavitt Township in a large way. That was part of ARPA funding to build a trail out there through the 40-acre, would be on the south side of the lake. So that will be another nice improvement out for the eastern part of the county. It was important to us, as well as you, that the east side of the county gets served equally. So, two other things. We had the dedication on Saturday of the, I'm going to say Crystal Valley, but Cedar Point Park. So several of the commissioners were there. It was a wonderful time, and appreciate your support with that project as it continues to mush on slowly. So that's what I had.
And Mr. McKean, I just want to echo what was said about Pete Lundberg.
Yeah.
The Lathers family has contributed, what, nearly $50,000 worth of lumber,
yeah,
and $20,000 worth of, or 20,000 screws into a project that Pete Lundberg and Joel Michelson and Mr. McKean have seen this to fruition. And Jana Lathers was there that day to see the park. She filmed it to take home to Dale, who's now bedridden. It was a beautiful day, wonderful weather, and a tremendous addition to our county park system.
Yeah, it's a neat spot that it's going to be. It's a destination. That's really what we're building, our destinations.
It was, wasn't it? We
yeah,
had groups walk through, groups and groups going through
and when the Marshfield Dam project gets done, it'll become a destination too, more so than just for fishermen, but for everybody. And I really, Gales Pond already is a destination. It's underserved and underused, but it gets more and more people all the time. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other public comment at this time?
I have one later.
Mike Lewis, live in Grant Township. The lighting project for the airport. It's an area I do. I did the energy study for here. We did the lighting study for here. There's a lot of question when it comes into lighting. So the number they come up with is kind of odd to me. I do this for a living. Work with Muskegon County. I'm doing the whole airport there. Seems very low. Biggest thing to ask for when you ask for a cut sheet is what is the warranties on these lights. They do fail. And also, as regards to the people that work on it, you have to make sure they're vetted when they put these lights into the airport. There are huge restrictions when it comes to airport lighting. A lot of times they can do something very minor that will cause a failure down the road, and then somebody's got to cover that cost. And so if the warranty doesn't cover the labor part of it, only the light, the labor part causes the failure, who's covering that? So you're asking a lot of good questions, because a cut sheet tells you a lot of information about what's going on. Just like these lights. I mean, even though the county didn't do these, or Dr. Sobey didn't move forward, I mean, there's a 10-year warranty that you can get on these lights. So with the airport, you want to look for a 20 or 25-year warranty, at least on the lights, so they're covered.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hardy, I'd just like to make one statement to clear the air.
Okay.
When I came on the board almost 14 years ago, the board members received the benefit of health insurance plus a salary. 2 years after I was on the board, we took that away. They do not receive any. Some of the benefits, some of the boards that are around us come under the same retirement system as the employees. Our board members do not. There are no benefits for our board members, coffee and rolls twice a month, but no benefits that the other employees get that we are privileged to. And I'm not advocating any change. I agree with it being that way. So in no way can we be considered full-time employees. You know, we are just elected officials, they get paid the salary. We get no benefits at all to go along with it. And sometimes those things get carried, information goes out for some reason or another, innocently, I think, that's not correct. But, for your information, we will not be full-time employees, period. No benefit, anything other than the salary.
Thank you.
So.
Any other public comment at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't mean to disagree with you, but don't we get 2 minor benefits, like dental? Is that considered?
See, there is that little dental policy and in the vision policy. I've never used them. So.
Oh, okay.
So.
Just for clarity's sake, we do have semi-benefits.
That benefit.
Right.
I stand
Yeah.
corrected and I was wrong.
Yeah.
And
But
we
it does
and we
not
can-
make us full-time.
And we can
pay.
purchase coverage for our families.
Pardon me?
And we can purchase coverage for our families.
Yes.
Not
So-
covered by the county.
Right.
Right. Okay. Any other public comment?
I
Yes,
had
please.
one more thing. Several weeks ago at the board meeting, the sheriff presented about a 7-page informational part of material he had is either confiscated or it came to the sheriff in a number of ways. Talking to the prosecutor, he did give the nod that it was okay for the county parks to rifle through the stuff. And we were able to find a really nice toolkit that Pete Lundborg is using now out at Cedar Point. We had to buy some batteries. Those were donated by one of the members. We found a crowbar, a couple of other tools here and there, so I appreciate the sheriff allowing us to share some of that material and some of the projects that we're working on. And thank you to all board
Fantastic.
members.
All right. We'll adjourn the meeting for Finance and Equalization, and we'll take a break until 11:30.
Sorry.
Drop my car and
Could've
smoke.
started at 9 o'clock for 10 o'clock.
Yeah, right.
You never know.
No, I just saw with the agenda that
Oh,
one,
I
I'm
was
like,
gonna say,
wow.
That's got a priority.
And you need to hog all this.